talk about what?
What?
Remiss.
Remiss.
You're not the only one who can read books, bro.
Let me Google that. Definition of remiss.
Sorry, let me check that. It'd be very naive of me to have you on here and not talk about the fight that everyone's talking about. Without going into all of the ins and outs, how excited are you for that fight, or the potential of that fight, should I say?
It's such an interesting question, Kai. You got one end of it, yeah? But it's a bad mind. Like, am I excited? I ain't excited. It is what it is. I'm gonna smoke. I ain't excited for nothing, bro. Like, I don't care about nothing. I'm ready to just walk through a brick wall. Like, nothing's getting in my way. There's that mindset that I have, and that's why I said there's the guy next door, and this is the guy kicking off your front door.
Mm-hmm.
Are you excited to do a lick? Are you excited to make, right, this is what I do?
Mm-hmm.
But then there's a guy next door that, mate, as happy as the fans are, what an honor it is for me. What honor it is for the whole world to be in a position where I can fight for the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world. History, great legacy, and a fight I know I can win. Listen, it's not going to be easy, but it's a fight where I know I can win. I'm ready to go through whatever pain, torture, adversity I have to go through in order to win. And that's why I'm really looking forward to it. And I'm so blessed and happy. And also, I know how much I'll be able to give back once this is all done. So once the fight's done and once the fight's announced, how much we'll be able to give back to people as well. So it's a real good opportunity for me.
What's good, family? So smash the like button and subscribe. So we just heard there from your boy Anthony, the booty buster Joshua. Now, you man know the YB's channel, to an extent, we do have a bit of a religious side, in as much as I believe in fate. I believe that God puts things... I don't believe God interferes in everyone's life all of the time, but I do believe at key, pivotal points, God will set things up a certain way, if that makes sense. I don't believe if you go to bed every night and pray for a Ferrari, next day you're going to pop there, but I'm saying I believe in everyone's life at certain different points there, God does something, you know what I'm saying? He gives you a little nudge, or he makes events just end up unfolding how they're unfolding. Now, again, we've just heard there from AJ, but I want to give you, man, the holistic viewpoint where I'm coming from here, because I believe this Fury fight is it now. That's it. Wilder's been washed already. Wilder's easy work. Stick it on him, he falls apart. But Fury, he got the belt, and this is the big one now. And on that basis, I believe, potentially, this is where, spiritually speaking, things are lining up for AJ right now. For example, we've just seen the video of Tyson Fury's dad being laid spark out by the Black Skeleton with a weak shot. Hit him with the weakest shot and he went spark out. That day, in my opinion, do you think it's just chance that it came out 3-4 months before the proposed date? I don't. That footage has existed for 30 years and now all of a sudden it's popped up. That footage is out there to remind AJ and his team these dons are chinless, yeah? They're chinless, which means I don't want to hear no, oh well, I want to prove that I can box. Don't want to hear it. He needs to be chinned. That's the first thing. That's the first message that's been sent. The other message, Andy Ruiz. Andy Ruiz. We saw what happened against AJ, and we all started giving him way too much credit. That said, the YB was the one who said, the only person in the world saying AJ needs to go in there and march forward and maul all over this dude. Show him what time it is. Everyone else was saying, oh, YB, you want to get AJ chinned. Oh, Ruiz is too quick. Oh, Ruiz is too much this. Ruiz is too much that. I said, nah. We go in there, we hold our ground, and we push his wig back. I was the only one, or me and a few dons were the only one who believed in him like that. You man, oh, no, he needs to run around. No, he can only win on points. That's what most men were saying, including AJ's goofy team. Yeah? I said, go in there, and we show him what time it is. No doubt. Bottom line, we back ourselves above anything. We back ourselves, especially against someone like Andy Ruiz, who ain't no good, who's never showed no evidence of no power. Anyway, 2-2s. Andy Ruiz goes in there tonight, or last week, at the weekend, gets some mulked by some next 40-year-old Don. Reaffirming everything I knew already. I knew Andy Ruiz couldn't punch. I knew he was no good. So my point is, there's constant messages of what needs to be done. God's trying to tell you, you made a mistake. Going in there, giving Andy Ruiz way too much respect. That's on you. That's on you and your team for giving that man way too much respect. I've just showed you a 40-year-old washed on can go in there and stand toe to toe with him. You need to start believing more in yourself. You need to start believing more in your ferocious skills. That's the message I got from it. Yeah? Tyson Fury and his lineage, chinless. So there's so many messages here lining up. What else have we got? Rob McCrappen going away with the Olympic team. You know what I'm saying? Spiritually speaking, in my opinion, things are lining up. So many messages are being sent. Now you can decide to ignore them or not. I'm just here to, what's the word? I'm going to vocalize it for you. Just in case you missed any of them, I'm going to tell you what exactly God's trying to tell you. Get rid of McCrappen. Yeah? There's again another one. Within your team, you've got the best trainer in the game, Shane McGuigan. One of your underlings, Lawrence Okoli, is working with him. I mean, what more of a message do you need? You know what I'm saying? At every level, you're being sent messages here. Simple as that. That's the way I see it. It's simple. Simple, basic messages being sent. At every level. Now, we hear, moving on now. Now I've given you, man, the holistic approach of all the key messages that the higher power is sending to AJ. We now hear him in this latest interview, this exclusive interview, and he picks up on a few points, which in my opinion, it's all related. So from the jump, AJ says, I'm feeling two feelings. One side of me is feeling like I'm about to hit a lick, yeah? One side of me is feeling like I'm about to walk through a brick wall, or I'm ready to walk through a brick wall, yeah? Gonna leck off the front door, I think he says, or something along the lines of that. And that there's exactly the right energy you need to have. But then, and it's interesting that he vocalizes this, but it's true, I've been sensing as much. He then goes on to say, I've got that side of me, but also the other half, I'm thinking about what a great honor it is, and I'm thinking about my legacy. I'm thinking about, what do you say? I'm thinking about my legacy, and I'm looking forward to helping people and how much of a blessing it is, and I can help loads of people. Listen, that second half, don't worry about that. I always get the feeling, or I've had the feeling for the last few years, that's the part of AJ that's been taken over. He's worrying way too much about the longevity of it all. Yeah? Legacy, people in general, yeah, great people. Well, I'm just speaking from what, in my opinion. In my opinion, great people, if you're too busy focused about your legacy, and what it will look like, you're not focused on the job at hand. Does that make sense? If you're thinking about how things look, and not just going in there and getting the best out of yourself, they're two different things in my opinion. For example, the Joseph Parker fight. In the Joseph Parker fight, AJ said, that was the start of this whole legacy business. In the Joseph Parker fight, AJ said, I wanted to box in this fight to prove I can box. So that people know from my, you know what I mean? So that people know from my legacy that I can box, and I'm not just a whatever. That was the first sign of it. And then we get it again in the Pulev fight. Oh well, for my legacy, I wanted to show people I can box. What? Don't worry about that. Don't worry about trying to show. Go in there, and this is the thing. Half the problem is your trainer don't know what he's doing. But either way, the point is going in there and sticking to a vicious game plan is all it is. You don't need to overthink things. Yeah, legacy comes. What happens in the future will come when you put on devastating performances. And again, with the whole, oh well, when I win this fight against Fury, I'm going to be able to help so many people. That will come. Yeah, if you knock Fury out in 6 rounds twice, you're going to be able to help a lot more people than you will if you go in there and you last 12 rounds and end that kind of performance. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Focus. That second half of you is all well and good, but let that half take over when you're 40 and you're retired. That's the heart. All that honouring, oh, I'm so honoured and it's so great for my legacy. Don't worry about that. That will be there. For now, that first half of you, the lecking off the front door, the hitting the lick half of you, that's the half that matters. That's the only half that matters when you're, or for the next 5 years of your career, in my opinion. Now, there's some goofy AJ fans who say, oh, YB. There's a whole bag of goofy AJ fans. They tell me, oh, YB, AJ don't listen to you, and he's going to do what he wants to do. Yeah, and that. I'm just saying that's why you go in 10 rounds with Pulev. And for 8 rounds, you're not doing nothing. Simple as that. I'm just telling you what people want to see. For your sake. For your legacy. Your legacy, I'm telling you now, people, AJ fans won't not to hear this, but AJ's legacy will not be the same if he goes 12 rounds with Fury. I'm just telling you. It's mathematically impossible. Your legacy will always... The quicker you KO this Don twice, the better your legacy will be. Bottom line. When you think about... Look at, for example, Tyson. Mike Tyson. When he fought his challenges, not so much in his era, but when he was coming up, he smoked Spinks. Spinks and Berbick got smoked. Yeah? They were really his... That was his opening up... They were his big performances. Spinks and Berbick. The rest of them, he fell off the wagon. Other examples, I don't know, even when you look at Lennox and whatnot, they got smoked. Lennox smoked Mike Tyson. Yes, he was washed, but do you understand? Smoked him. Lennox, when he fought Vitali, whooped him. There's very few examples, really, of it dragging out and going the distance. And the thing is, as well, all of these great people that we mention, Ali smoked Foreman. And all of these great people, they were actually fighting people who were equally as great as such. In my opinion, Fury isn't your equal. We can sit there and argue that Lewis and Tyson are equal, or Lewis and whoever are equal. I'm afraid to break it to you, but you're not in an era where people are your equal. So it's even more on you to stop them. Does that make sense? If Tyson was able to stop Spinks, they were similar level. Fury can't punch, he slaps. Fury can't punch and is chinless. That's what we've been sent down. That's what the messaging has been. Yeah? Genetically, Fury has got no chin. And he has no power. Yeah? That's the bottom line. And on that basis, you owe it to your legacy to get this dude out of there. Or at least fight that way. Does that make sense? If AJ goes in there, yeah, and his elbows are in, his chin's down, he's stepping in, he's slipping, he's pressuring, cutting the ring off, going to work, and it goes 12 rounds, so be it. Sometimes that's the way it goes, but if you go in there and you're giving it the arms, and you're giving it the touching the jab and dancing around, your legacy ain't going to be the same. I'm just telling you, man, now how it's going to look. It ain't going to be the legacy that you was building, because people have got a short memory, and I know it comes from a good place, but many AJ fans, they just want to justify everything. Oh, well, no, it's a great boxing performance. But we weren't saying that. The same AJ fans, yeah, who rant and rave about how much of a great boxing performance it was, were the same ones who were laughing at Fury. But now, because their man's doing it, they want to justify it. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be consistent. The reason AJ was building a certain type of legacy was because he was totally ferocious. Don't be biased and don't have a short memory. That's the legacy he was building. He was the UK 6'5" Adonis, Mike Tyson version. Yeah, totally ferocious. And there's different types of legacies. The Mike Tyson legacy, or the Mike Tyson style of legacy, is the ultimate legacy. That's what people think of when they think of a boxer. They don't think of going 12 rounds and boring everyone to tears. They just don't. That's just the way it is. We can lie to ourselves as fans. We can lie to ourselves. We can justify it. I'm just telling you the honest truth. The honest truth is, it's not going to be the same type of legacy. Especially when you look at AJ. When you look at AJ, you don't see 12 rounds. When you look at Fury, you think, yep, he's long. He's soft. He got 12 rounds. When you see AJ, you see a machine. And look at his resume. Machine resume. But this is where it counts now. There ain't no more, oh, I need to prove I can box. What you need to prove is that you can get the best of your dons got out of there within the first half of the fight. That's what you need. That's what needs to happen now. Bottom line. I don't want to hear about, I need to show I can box. I don't want to hear about anything else. Totally ferocious. Because this man has got no chin. That's the first thing. And he has no power. And that's the long and the short of it. He's long and soft as well. I just can't see a reason not to. I had one don in my comment section saying, "Oh, YB, you're wrong on this one. And Fury, AJ needs to perform like he did against Pulev. He needs to go in there and just." I thought, what's going on here? But some people, they want to shill so hard they can't admit to themselves that, you know what, this ain't the look. You're right. Let's just go in there and get to work. Let's crack on with what we was doing. Because in the last few years, the message has been diluted. for whatever reason. I think part of it's the trainer. I think part of it's probably success and the champion's curse. Either way, you've been sent the messages. The messages that are there the messages of change are there, or you've certainly been given. You've been given a little push in the right directions, I believe. All the messages are there. Andy Ruiz, you've been told, Andy Ruiz, your greatest foe, is a bum. That's what God told you at the weekend, he's a bum. And you should never been dancing around with him when a 40-year-old no-good Don was in there mixing and matching with him and whooped him and played ping ball with his clerk. And that was, again, at the weekend, that was the best Ruiz ever. That was the best Ruiz with the best trainer in the best shape. And 40-year-old next Don with no power played ping ball with his clerk in round 3. That's the message God told you. I don't know what you was playing that kid in that rematch. That's what he said. I'm just telling you. I'm translating it for you. Fury. The tape dropped. His genetic line is chinless. Yeah. Wilder, who by the way has no power himself. Wilder, who has no power, nearly knocked him out. Nearly knocked Fury out. And his dad also fought someone. Wilder's dad fought Fury's dad, and he ended up chinned. The skeleton. Black skeletal looking ass. Knocked him spark out with a off balance, moving backwards right hand, which was more like a soft jab. Had him sparkle on the floor. Yeah? So how many more messages do we need to see? The other one as well. Rob McCracken. Engaged in amateur boxing, Olympic boxing. You've been now I'm not saying all of them you need to capitalise on, because maybe unfortunately I'm not confident that Rob McCracken's going to be leaving your camp, but either way, at least take notice of the other ones that are there, because I don't believe this is coincidence. I don't believe, assuming the fight happens. If the fight doesn't happen, then it is what it is. But assuming this fight happens in this summer, I believe it's not coincidental. All these signs are being sent right now. There's no way, in my opinion, no way. All these different signs you've been sent to get the job done in a particular way. Yeah? Now, clearly, people don't change overnight. Meaning, I can hear, AJ said himself, half of me, I'm ready to walk through the brick wall. I'm ready to let the front door off. I'm ready to hit a lick. I'm hitting a lick with Fury. That's the only half that matters. That half needs to become the whole. Because whatever strategy you have, it needs to be the culture or the principle, all of it needs to be under them, what's the word? Them words you've used. Running through a brick wall, lecking off the front door, hitting a lick. That needs to underpin everything you do in your strategy. Even if you opt here to box, which I don't advise, but if you did do that, you need to have that viciousness behind it. In the Pulev fight, I don't care what no one says, in the Pulev fight, apart from the few bursts, which by the way weren't very effective, you were just going mad. So even then, it was too much. It wasn't controlled. But we're taking out them few bursts of ferociousness. There was no hitting the lick in there, was there? Show me, apart from the few bursts, which was probably less than 0.1% of the fight. The fight went 9-10 rounds. And them bursts were probably 30 seconds of it. So, less than 1% of the fight was the burst. Take out that 1%, yeah? The 99% of that fight, there was no hitting a lick. You weren't hitting, there weren't a bit of a lick hit with Pulev. You weren't lecking no front door off with Pulev. It was all, I don't know what it was, but it was just too docile. And for someone who's been blessed with your genetics, when someone who's been blessed with you're not chinless. Yeah, no matter how much your team don't believe you are, you ain't chinless. You had a bad night. Every other piece of data, Klitschko, yeah. In fact, we've just seen John Fury knock spark out with someone moving backwards. Klitschko, who has a massive right hand, much bigger than the black skeleton. Go back and watch it if you man don't believe me. Klitschko hit AJ flush right on the end of his whiskers with a perfect turned over right hand. Vlad's never threw a right hand cleaner in his life. And at that point, you was overweight, out of shape, knackered in your first big fight, and all it did was bounce off, and you sat down and got back up. That there is your chin. Your chin isn't what happened on June. I know your team don't understand that, but that's the truth of it. Your chin's solid. Your chin's best in the division. And on that basis, you got nothing to be scared about. You was in there. Look at the way you was hunting Dillian White around the ring, smiling. Back shots was bouncing off. People like to get rock hard, yeah. People's lipstick come flying out when they talk about, oh, Dillian White, they knocked him out. Dillian White didn't do a lick. Dillian White, a 300-pound man, hit you on the side of your head, and you barely took a half step. That was it, and you carried on marching forward. That's the truth of it. Yeah? You can go, and that was Dillian White. I believe Dillian White has multiples more power than Fury does. You can march in there with Fury, and Fury's shots will bounce off. Fury's best shot will bounce off, I'm telling you now, the same way Vlad's did. Bounced off. And, by the way, again, Vlad's right hand is multiples heavier than Fury's right hand. That's the truth of it. I'm just telling you, man. Look at Wilder. Wilder's chinless himself. Look at another example of flawed genetics. Wilder, look at his brother. His brother got hit by some next journeyman Don and put him spark out. But even then, Fury was fighting Wilder. Couldn't do nothing with him. And we've seen how easy it is Wilder's genes are to go spark out. Fury couldn't activate the noddle enough. Which shows you he's chinless and he ain't got no power. But knowing that, as a fan, it's all well and good for us to know that and laugh about it. But unfortunately, you're in a position, you're in a sport, you're the one who's got to take advantage of it. We can't do that for you. All I can do is show you, is break it down. And people think YB is funny. YB loves to have a laugh. I do love to have a laugh, but I'm not joking no more. I told my Patreon Don, this for me now ain't a joke. I'm being deadly serious. If AJ goes in there and doesn't expose the fact this Don has no power and has no chin, I'm gonna have to go in. Simple, I'm gonna have to go in. Because it's not acceptable. Yeah? We can sit here and laugh, but it's no good us sitting and laughing if you go in there and give this man way too much respect. And treat him like he's Hulk Hogan, like he did with Ruiz. I'm going to be honest. That's what happened with Ruiz. With Ruiz, you gassed us all, or you and your team, or whoever else, got us gassed thinking Ruiz was some next Mike Tyson Don. And I said, even me, because of how you and your team reacted to Ruiz, I thought, yeah, man, he must be serious. Because I know if AJ's being cautious of him, he must be real serious. We find out he ain't serious. We find out that you made him into that beast. He's a bum, really. Because Chris Arreola turned up, got his nuts out, and punked him. Played ping ball with his cart for fun. That's the true Ruiz, exposed. So like I said, it comes down to mentality. And that's the bottom line now. You've got all the physical gifts. Now what it comes down to is what you want to do. If you don't want to get hit. If you don't... Look, Canelo gets hit. Canelo got hit by Kovalev or Smith, but it's not about if your defense is tight, getting hits irrelevant. Again, using the Canelo example, Canelo went in there with Triple G. I don't care what no one says. I don't care how much any fan gasses you up. Fury, categorically, empirically, does not have more power than Golovkin. Nonetheless, Canelo Alvarez went in there with Golovkin, who at the time was the bigger, more established man, and Canelo banged with him. Didn't move back for 7 rounds. Went out of his way to set pace on purpose. Because people said the first fight he lost. The second fight, he came out and he righted the wrong, in my opinion. It was obvious to see. The smaller man took it upon himself to prove the point. And that was against Golovkin. Someone pound for pound, multiples more stronger than Fury. So if these guys are doing that, setting pace like that, there's no excuse now. There's no, I want to show I can box. There's no nothing. I don't want to hear it. That's the level I'm setting for you. On the basis of how good I believe you are. Now, if you ain't that good, we're gonna find out. That's for sure. Because there's no excuse now. We can't, as fans, we can't sit here and laugh how chinless Fury and his gene. We can't sit there and laugh about how flawed Fury's genetics are in the power department and in the chin department, and then accept a 12-round decision. Because I've told you, man, before. I'm under no illusions. Like in terms of probability, I'm 100% sure AJ wins the fight. That's never been the question. I believe he can win on points with ease, easily. I'm certain of it. That's not, like I said, I'm not judging him on that. That's already in the bag for me. If someone said to me, I'd bet on it. I'd bet my life on it, 100%. He will win. Full stop. For me, it is how you win. That's what your legacy will reflect. Because in the history books, 100 years from now, 50 years from now, they'll look back at the pictures, yeah? And they'll see you, Africanulese, and they'll see Fury. And if you've gone points, they'll say, well, innit? That's what they'll say. They'll say, what do you mean? What do you mean he won on points? How can that Don there, looking like that, and having that power and that speed, and all of these advantages, and that chin, how can he be going points with that Don? Who's soft, big for nothing, chinless, got no power. That's what they'll say, and rightly so. So that's why, if you really care about your legacy, and the gifts you've been given, say that Fury don't go 6 rounds. And that's it. Or certainly, he don't go the distance. And that's the long and the short of it. No matter how you want to cut it, whatever, that's the bottom line. You and your team, this whole camp, must be orientated around he's not leaving the ring. He's not making it to the final belt. That's what the philosophy of this camp needs to be based around. Because in the Pulev camp, it wasn't based around that. And I do blame my training team. I think Rob McCrappen, never at one point in the fight did Rob McCrappen say, "Yeah, it's time to put the gas on now." Never once. There's something fundamentally wrong with that as a trainer. For you, a prime, one of the best athletes the sport's ever seen, to be in there with a 40-year-old man, and 10 rounds in, and your trainer ain't telling you to put the hammer down. There's something wrong there. But we know that you don't want to address it. Fine. But the fact that you don't want to make the change, I'm not going to sit here and lie like some fans will and say, "Oh no, and justify." I'm not going to do that. The hammer need to went down, and again, look at other trainers. Okoli was in there in his first World Championship fight against Glowowski. Shane McGuigan told him in this round 5-6 is ready to go. Other trainers, Manny Stewart, we've seen it throughout history. Great trainers know how good their athletes are and tell them when it's time to go. Your trainer never do that because he ain't great and he don't know what he's doing. That said, the facts, trainer or no trainer, the facts are this dude needs to be out of there. And that's the long and the short of it. As good as you are, Fury does not deserve to see the final belt. And that's how you need to treat this fight. And if for example, you go in there and you're totally ferocious, you're cutting the ring off like Mike Tyson, you're working him, hitting, even if he's got the good defense, you're hitting him on the arms, you're hitting him, you're pummeling him, and he makes it to 12 rounds. Fair play to him, because at that point he'd have been one of the hardest men on earth. Does that make sense? If you go in there and execute your game plan and you're chasing him down and working him all over, and he makes it to 12 rounds, that means he was a great man. Obviously, you'll still win on points in 12 rounds to 0, but do you know what I'm saying? That's fair play to him. What I'm saying is, that's the position you need to put him in. You need to put him in a position where we have to see how tough he is. We have to see how good his chin is. You have to test it, is what I'm saying. Push him every round. Every round, he should be feeling like, I don't really want to be here no more. Every round. In there with an athlete like you. That's how I feel. Fury. That's how Fury should be feeling. In there with you for 12 rounds. Guess what? Pulev, apart from the little spurt here and there, Pulev was happy to be in there with you all night. Pulev, in certain places, even tried to get his offense off a bit. That should never be the case. Should never have someone like Pulev in the centre of the ring, and you're negotiating round the side of it. I don't understand that. It's the wrong mentality, and again, I blame your training team, because Canelo's training team, they got the job done. We're gonna bully the bully, and Fury ain't no bully either. That's the thing about it. He ain't no bully. He never be no bully. And we've seen, never mind Fury's mentality. And I do give Fury his credit, because despite his physical lackings, his trainer and his team, going in there against Wilder, who is a superior athlete, arguably, Fury went in there and mauled him. So like I said, I've always given Fury and his team credit for that, because he went from Ben Davidson, Mr. Negative, Mr. McCracken 2.0, Mr. Don't ever risk anything, Mr. Run around as much as you can possible, to getting in there and getting stuck in. So I do rate him for that. But much like Fury, realised this isn't right, this isn't working, This isn't my best. Fury, in my opinion, was under no illusion he could carry on through his career, nipping and tucking and going 50-50, life and death with random dudes. He decided that's not how he wanted to end his career. That's not who he wanted to be. Fair play to him. And he did that with limited tools, with a limited chin, with limited power. You've got all the power, all the chin, but for some reason you think Rob McCrappen's the gaffer. You think the gaffer is someone who allows you to plod through 10 rounds against Pulev. No, the gaffer would have been telling you, AJ, you are this great. This great. And that's what I said. I said before the Pulev fight, AJ is this great. Pulev shouldn't be going 6 rounds with someone as great as you. That's what your coach should have been telling you. And anyone who lies to you and tells you otherwise is just blowing smoke up your ass. That's the truth of it. Because anyone who looks at 40-year-old Pulev, which Vladimir Klitschko got out there in 4 rounds, and tells you need to be in there for 10 rounds, you're just trying to blow your ego up and trying to make out you're perfect. Oh no, that's what the AJ fans do now. They say, oh no, YB, you're wrong, and AJ's perfect, and oh, he knew what he was doing, and he plans to do it in the 9th round. Get out of here, man. You don't know what you're talking about. You ain't got a clue what you're on about. That KO against Pulev was pure luck. He didn't have a clue it was going to come. It just so happened to come. He didn't work for that at all. It just so happened that Pulev shot to bits. Pulev's a million-year-old, and it played out that way. It could have easily gone 12 rounds. Pure chance it was. There was no work in that fight. Never once did AJ go to work and just start working him consistently and earning the KO. His power is so high, he don't have to do much, and that's what happened with Pulev. Pulev, old, no good, and he got caught and went spark out. But even then, he jumped up straight away. Yeah, I told you the other day. Go watch AJ versus Brazil. Brazil weren't jumping nowhere. Brazil was butchered. Brazil weren't making no funny comments. Brazil weren't making no noises. He was butchered, and rightly so. Pulev was goofy. No man should go 10 rounds with AJ and be goofy. And anyone who disagrees, you're lying to yourself, and you're trying to make things, you're trying to rose filter things. The YB's the truth, and deep down you know what I'm saying is the truth. And the best thing for your legacy